y'all may be wondering what all this beating and banging is all about that I always post about on social media outlets. What it essentially is deep foundations. We're beating in poles. We call them piling. Some of them are made out of wood. Some of them may be made out of concrete or steel or pipe, different sorts of material. But what they are, in essence, is their deep foundation, just like the foundation that your house sits on, the concrete it's built on. These deep foundations are piers um, for high rises or bridges and things like that. And it takes a process to get them in the ground. I've driven them upwards to I guess 300 feet in the ground offshore for platforms to sit on top of that they drill, get natural gas out of the ground with, things like that, but or crude oil maybe. But I've also driven 100, 160 feet in the ground for bridges, big bridges, and even more shallow for smaller bridges. It really depends on the type of soil that as to how long, how deep, how wide, and all of that the piling go into the ground that make up the deep foundation. You see, it takes a process. Those all of that has to be made. Whether it be concrete, precast, the poles have to be pressure treated. If they're wood, the steel has to be a certain thickness, size, to meet specs, and all of that. You know, they have to be driven. They have to be plans have to be made, so that when we get them in the ground, people will know. The people after us will come in and they'll build on that foundation. You see, God had a process as well. It's called the plan of redemption for mankind, and we read about it from the beginning to the end of the Bible. And he essentially made this deep foundation. He drove it home. He drove it so deep it was immovable. He called a man named Abraham um, at a specific point in history, a specific point in time, and he told him, he said, I'm going to make of you a great nation, and in your seed all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And that's exactly what happened. He made of him a great nation, the Israelites. He brought them all to Egypt, and delivered them out of Egypt, kept his hand on them, raised them up, and pointed throughout the kings in history and prophets and all to a specific time in history where this Messiah would come. And he ends up coming in long story short, he ends up coming through Abraham's seed, just like he told him in the beginning, and he ends up being Christ the Lord, Jesus Christ. Um, and he lived for us. He showed us um, how to live. He laid a foundation. He died for us. He was crucified, brutally beaten on our behalf, and he was raised again 3 days later, and now he lives for us, and he sent us his Spirit as a guarantee. There was a process in the plan of redemption for mankind. Um, the Apostle Paul speaks of this in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 about how God made Christ the foundation, how Jesus is the foundation. He's the deep foundation, the immovable foundation, and we can't build another foundation. And we also have to be careful about how we build on that foundation, whether it be um, with temporary things or eternal things, because it says in that day all these other things will be tested by fire. The foundation will not move, never will move, never was intended to move. Just like these deep foundations that we drive, they're not going to move. The whole house, the whole building might fall, but these things, they will be embedded in the ground. Jesus is our deep foundation. How are you building on that foundation? Is it with the fruits of His Spirit? Things that have to do with love, peace, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. Those are just some of the things in the list of which it gives us in the Bible about what it looks like, what the fruit looks like of those who live for Him, who are building on that solid foundation.